Many successful bands see a decline in the quality of their music late in their careers. It's obvious at a certain point that their best music is behind them. But when should these bands decide to quit in order to preserve their musical legacy? Is their musical legacy that important to the fans? Should it be? Not surprisingly, I have some opinions on this. Hi everyone, I'm Paul Crayson, and you're watching Music Mentions. A few weeks ago, The Guardian had an article titled, "Fleetwood Mac Decided to Go Their Own Ways. How do bands know when to quit, and shouldn't more do so?" I've often thought about this question, especially after a great band releases a terrible album, or when they possibly have a really bad PR move that leaves a blemish on their legacy. Today, I'm going to tackle this topic from a music fan's perspective. Specifically, I'm going to use U2 as an example. Also, when I'm referring to legacy in this video, I'm referring to the musical legacy and not necessarily talking about musicians that have had criminal accusations cast on them or actually have been convicted of some kind of a crime. I'm strictly talking about legacy in terms of music quality. Musicians and their possibly criminal activities most likely will be a topic for a video in the future because it's kind of a special category. Successful bands often have a really strong impact on the music industry and their fans. Their music becomes part of the fabric of people's lives, impacting memories and experiences. Bands and artists like the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Grateful Dead, and Elton John have left a real indelible mark on the music landscape. Their legacy is something that continues to inspire and influence even after they've stopped making music. However, there's a delicate balance between preserving that legacy and overstaying their welcome. Some people believe that bands should quit while they're ahead in order to maintain their integrity and their image. They argue that continuing to perform and produce music past their prime has a negative impact on their musical legacy. Obviously, bands care about their legacy to one degree or another. Even those bands that claim they don't care about their legacy probably do. That legacy can keep the money rolling in for family and friends even after the artist is dead. But is legacy that important to music fans? And should it be? Let's take U2 as an example that continues to release new music and to perform, although it's pretty clear to longtime fans and music critics that their most vital music is behind them. In full disclosure, I'm a U2 fan and have been for over 40 years. I've seen them 6 times live, the first being in 1987 in Denver at one of the two shows that was filmed for the album and the movie Rattle and Hum. For U2 to have left a perfect musical legacy, I would argue that they should have quit after Achtung Baby was released in 1991. That would have been over 30 years ago. Not only have their albums subsequent to Achtung Baby just not been as good, in my opinion, but then they made this terrible PR decision in 2014 when they partnered with Apple and decided to install their latest album at that time called Songs of Innocence onto people's iPhones, whether or not those people wanted Songs of Innocence on their iPhones. The backlash was instant. You would have thought that U2 had personally assaulted these people by how much they were whining and complaining about receiving this album for free on their iPhones. Regardless, it was a terrible PR maneuver. In retrospect, it was such a bad move that I would argue they haven't recovered still to this day, especially among the young music listeners who really think U2 is just not cool anymore. Most likely, they have that idea, not just because the music isn't as good, but it's because of that U2 and Apple debacle. If you've paid any attention to the music news lately, you no doubt have seen that U2 has started a 25-date residency at a place called Sphere in Las Vegas. This is a brand new venue shaped like a globe and truly a technological marvel. I've watched a lot of the videos from those first few shows that U2 has done at the Sphere, and the visuals are truly impressive, really stunning. This is groundbreaking stuff for sure. And as far as the sound and the acoustics, from the interviews that I've read of people that have seen these shows, they claim that the sound is simply amazing. The clarity is very good. They're hearing things in the mix that they would never expect to have heard at a live show before. Understandably, U2 is much older now, and I thought that the band's energy and Bono's vocals were not quite there, certainly not as powerful as they used to be in their earlier years. Still okay, but they've definitely lost a few steps. However, I'm sure that if I had attended one of these shows in person, probably my opinion would differ. It's kind of hard to really determine the overall performance and the sound by just watching YouTube videos of those performances. So will this latest restart of the band's activity result in an improvement to the reputation and goodwill, especially among younger listeners? Will this help to repair their legacy? Possibly, but I think that we still need to wait until the new album comes out. If the album is really strong, then it looks like there's a chance that U2 might climb on top again, but let's wait and see. So where does all this leave us with U2? How should we consider them now? Should they have quit after Achtung Baby? Or should we be grateful that they're still making music, still performing past their prime? Indeed, more broadly, this question can apply to many more bands and artists. Like, what the fuck happened to Coldplay after their first 3 albums before they decided to hop down this neon-colored pop music road to irrelevancy? Should Metallica have broken up after the Black Album? Should Led Zeppelin have quit after Physical Graffiti? What about Elton John? Should he have quit after Captain Fantastic? I could go on and on talking about the decline of the recorded music by any one band. But what about the live music part of that equation? There are many bands that were touring or are touring and still giving thrilling performances by all accounts, although their recent recorded music really just doesn't stand up to their classic output. That has to count for something, doesn't it? Music fans can be very opinionated and fickle. Music is art, and by its very nature, art generates passion and opinions. So what is my opinion on when bands or artists should quit? If you would have asked me this question years ago when I was more snobby and more of a music purist, I would have told you that legacy is incredibly important. I remember when I first heard the Led Zeppelin song Rock and Roll being played on a commercial for Cadillac back in 2002. I think they premiered that campaign, that advertising campaign, at the Super Bowl. And I remember just being absolutely heartbroken that Led Zeppelin had finally licensed their music to corporate America, to basically the enemy. It was a real deadhead sticker on a Cadillac kind of moment for me. And I knew that I was going to have to come to terms with this somehow. I never thought that my beloved Zeppelin would be a sellout. My opinion has definitely softened and evolved as far as artists selling out or somehow blemishing their legacy. I think if you take a hardline position and maintain a real purist type of attitude with music, you're going to quickly run out of bands to listen to. Being able to see great bands like the Rolling Stones, who are still releasing decent music and playing live while they're in their 80s. I think this is a good thing, and it makes me happy. No one is forcing me to listen to subpar albums like Steel Wheels or Bridges to Babylon, or going to see one of the Stones' stadium shows. But I have that option. They're still with us, and I would still argue they're still vital, although just not to the degree they were in the 70s. Ultimately, I think legacy is something that each music fan has to deal with on an individual basis as far as how important it is to them. For me, I just don't care that much anymore if some 20-year-olds or stereo gum critics just really put the hate on you too. Ultimately, I think musical legacy is something that needs to be determined by each music fan individually, and how important is it to you. For me, it's not as relevant as it used to be at one time. I'm sure that it's relevant to a lot of advertisers and a lot of marketers, and especially the artists themselves. Of course, they want a good legacy. But from a music fan's perspective, from someone that's listening to a lot of music, I still have the music. So what if Zeppelin sold a bunch of Cadillacs? We still have those older classic albums to listen to anytime that we want. We also have a lot of videos and concert movies from these bands that are past their prime, and we're able to watch and enjoy those also at any time. Does it really matter that those bands aren't as good now, or that they're not as relevant now, or that music group and forum people are laughing at them? I don't think so. And not even an Apple forcing a download on me or a great band releasing a shitty record is going to change that. Idealism has its place in music, for sure. But I think the importance that we put on that idealism has to be considered. And the importance I've put on it these days is not so much. Bringing down my expectations as far as musical legacy for any individual band or artist has actually helped me to enjoy the music more. As the great Oasis once said, don't put your life in the hands of a rock and roll band who'll throw it all away. Thanks, everybody. I'm Paul Crayson. You've been watching Music Mentions. If you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, hit the notifications. I will see you next time.